Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and I'm going to be doing a Code Talker Firewall deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an amazing combo deck that can make some absolutely incredible boards. It's super fun to play, especially with all the support that we got of Cyberstorm Access, giving us all sorts of cool main deck cards and even giving us a new boss monster in the form of a Link 6 monster, which is absolutely crazy. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Firewall Defensor. This is one of the best cards in the entire deck. This card is if this card is sent to the graveyard as a material for the Link summon of a Cyverse monster, you can special summon a Firewall monster from your deck except another copy of this card. But you cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate this effect except Cyverse monsters, which is not a big deal at all because it's all we're summoning anyways. And if a Firewall monster that you control would be destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead, giving you a little bit of protection for your copies of Firewall Singularity, which is just such a cool thing that it gives you so much protection for all your different Firewall dragons. We then play a single copy of Firewall Guardian. Firewall Guardian is a good one of the deck, but you only need a single copy of this card in the deck. It combos with your copy of Firewall Defensor, and it's a great one of in this build. If this card is sent to the graveyard as a material for the Link summon of a Cyverse monster, then you can special summon out this card but banish when it leaves the field, which just extends your plays even further. And when an attack is declared involving your Link monster and opponent's Link monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard, negate that attack, and if you do, until the end of this turn, the original attack of that opponent's monster becomes 0, and also it's unaffected by other card effects except its own, which is a pretty good effect to be able to use with this card. We then play a single copy of Firewall Phantom. Firewall Phantom is a great one of in the deck, but you only want to play a single copy of this card because it is a level 5 monster, so it's a little bit tough to summon on its own, and you don't want to see it in your hand. It's a great card in the deck to be able to special summon off your copy Defensor, and it has a great effect that if this card is sent to the graveyard as a material for a Link summon of a Cyverse monster, you can add a Signet Spell or Trap from your deck to your hand, then discard a card, which is a super cool effect to be able to use with this card to be able to search out copies of Signet Codex or even Signet Mining. We then play a small Math Mech package in the deck, which is going to be 3 copies of Math Mech Circular. This card is insane, the plays that you can actually pull off with this card, because you can send a Math Mech monster, except another copy of this card, from your deck to the graveyard, and then special summon this card from your hand, which is always going to be your copy of Sigma that you're sending to the graveyard off this card's effect. It also has the ability if a Math Mech monster is normal or special summoned to your field while you control this card, then it has the ability that you can add a Math Mech Spell or Trap from your deck to your hand, which is going to search out your copy of your Math Mech equation, which is super good. We then play a single copy of Sigma. Sigma is always going to be your target for your copy of Circular, and this card has the ability if you control no monster in your extra monster zone. While this card's in your hand or graveyard, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field, which is a crazy good effect to be able to use with this card just to instantly get it on your field and send it to the graveyard off your copy of Circular, and also be able to trigger the effect of your copy of Circular by special summoning this card to your side of the field off its effect, which is really good. We then play a single copy of Math Mech Addition. Addition's a great addition to this deck because it has the ability to target a face-up monster on the field, and you cannot special summon monsters from the extract for the rest of the turn except Cyverse monsters. Also, special summon this card from your hand, but it can't attack this turn, which is totally fine because you're just using this card as an extender. And if you do, the targeted monster gains 1,000 attack until the end of the turn, which can make one of your monsters have a pretty big boost to OTK your opponent. We then play 3 copies of Lady Debug. Lady Debug is a definite 3 of the deck. This card is basically the Stratos for the deck. Then when you normally special summon this card, you can add a level 3 or lower Cyverse monster from your deck to your hand, which is a really good effect. We then play 3 copies of Microcoder. Microcoder is really good in this deck as a 3-up because you can actually use this card in your hand as a material for the Link summon of a monster, which is super cool, of a Code Talker monster, which is just really awesome to be able to use this card in your hand to be able to step into some really good Link plays. And also has the ability, if you use this card as a Link material, then you can add a copy of a Signet Spell or Trap from your deck to your hand, which is a really awesome effect that we're always going to be using on this card. We then play a single copy of Code Code Generator. Code Generator can also be used in your hand as a material, which is really good about this card, and it shares a similar effect to your copy of Microcoder in that way, but this card is really good in the deck as well because it also has the ability, if it's used for link summon of a Code Talker monster, then you can send a Cyverse monster with 1200 or less attack from your deck to the graveyard, which is a super good effect to be able to combo with cards like Dotscaper. We then play 2 copies of Parallel Izzy. Parallel Izzy is great because if this card's in your hand and you do link summon, you can special summon this card to your side of the field to a zone that monster points to, which is a really awesome effect. You'll just instantly put this card on their side of the field. It does become 1000 attack and a level 4, but that's not that big of a deal because you instantly get to special summon another copy of this card from your deck, which is going to get you 2 monsters on your side of the field to use as link material to make some awesome plays. It doesn't super matter that it becomes a level 4 and its attack becomes 1000 and defense becomes 1000 on both copies that you summon to your side of the field. You're just using this card basically as a generic extender for the deck. We then play a single copy of Dotscaper. Dotscaper is awesome in the deck. It does have a once per duel effect, but it is a awesome extender in the deck because it has a great effect that if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card, and if this card is banished, you can special summon this card, and you can only use one effect this card and only once that turn, and you can only use each effect this card once per duel. We then play a single copy of the Adagnister Shield. The Adagnister Shield is just a really awesome extender for the deck, which is why you play this card as a one-of in the build. You can target a Cyverse effect monster you control, negate its effects, and do special summon this card to your side of the field from your hand, which is a really cool effect to be able to use on this card. We then play a single copy of Ibly. Ibly is a great one-of in the deck to be able to just basically lock your opponent down. It's very easy to get to this card in the deck, and it's awesome to be able to just give this card basically to your opponent, and it locks them in, which is just absolutely amazing. We then play a single copy of Cyverse Sage. Cyverse Sage is really good just to be able to play as a ritual monster in the deck, to be able to work with your copy of your Cyverse Witch, and it's great to have a ritual monster in the deck to be able to work with your Firewall cards to give them bonus abilities, which is just really awesome. This card is great as a one-of in the deck, and is just a great card. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is awesome in the deck as a 3-of, just to be able to stop the opponent from touching the deck. It's an awesome hand trap, and it's really good right now, which is why we're playing this card as a 3-of in the build. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start off with a single copy of MathMech Equation. MathMech Equation is a definite one-of in the build that is searchable off our copy of Circular, which is why we're playing this card as a one-of. It's basically a monster reborn, which is why you play this card as a one-of in the build. But you can only bring back MathMech cards with this card's ability. We then play a single copy of Salamangreat Sanctuary. Sanctuary is great in this deck. It's just super helpful in this particular build because it does have an awesome effect that if your monster battles, you can pay 1000 life points, target one link monster that you control, and make its attack 0, and if you do, gain life points equal to original attack of that monster, which is a pretty good effect to be able to use on this card to just get you some life points back. This card is super helpful in the deck, and it is searchable off of Balinks, and it helps you deck thin with this build. We then play a single copy of Signet Ritual. Signet Ritual is great to be able to work with our copy of our Sage, so this card is definitely a one of the deck, so we can ritual summon out that card to our side of the field. We then play a single copy of Signet Optimization. Optimization is great because if your Code Talker monster battles, your opponent cannot activate cards and effects until the end of the damage step, and during your main phase, you can immediately its effect resolves, normal summon a Cyverse monster. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from your extract the turn you activate this card, except for Cyverse monsters, which is not that big of a deal because getting that additional normal summon is usually really big in this deck, which is why we're playing this card as a one-of. We then play 3 copies of Signet Mining. Signet Mining is insane. This card is the Rhoda for the deck. It's absolutely crazy because you send a card from your hand to the graveyard to add a level 4 or lower Cyverse monster from your deck to your hand. It's great because a lot of our Cyverse cards actually benefit from being in the graveyard, so this card is awesome as a 3-of in the build. We're then playing 3 copies of Signet Codex. Codex is insane in this deck. This card is so good. It's such a powerful card because it has a super crazy effect that gives you multiple searches a turn. Because if a Code Talker monster is special summoned from your extract to your field, except during the damage step, then you can target one of those monsters and add a Cyverse monster with the same attribute from your deck to your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extract for the rest of the turn except Cyverse monsters, even if this card leaves the field. And you cannot add other monsters with add the same attribute to your hand by the effect of Signet Codex this turn. And you can only activate the effect of this card once per chain, but it's not a once per turn, which is super good about this card. I love this card in the deck because it's so helpful to be able to use, because you can search so many cards off this particular card, which is just absolutely amazing. It's a definite 3 in the deck. It's searchable in the deck, but you always want to see this card to get you the maximum amount of pluses off this card's effect. So that's it for these spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start off with a single copy of Signet Circuit. Signet Circuit is really good as a 1-of in this particular build, and has the ability to target a Firewall link monster that you control and special summon any number of monsters from your graveyard to either player's zones link monsters point to, which is really awesome. And if your life points are 2,000 or less, then you can banish this card from your graveyard and then return a Firewall link monster from your graveyard to your extra deck. Then you can special summon that monster from your extra deck, which is really good to be able to use this card as a 1-of in the build. We then play a single copy of Signet Conflict. Conflict is basically just the counter trap for the deck. It's really good in this deck as a 1-of, because when a spell or trap card or monster effect is activated while you control a Code Talker monster, negate the activation. If you do, banish that card, which is just such a good effect to be able to use with this card. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Impermanence is definitely a 3-of in the build, just to basically stop your opponent's monster effects and lock down entire columns of spells and traps when you set this card to your side of the field, which is why it's such a good hand trap in this build. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Firewall Dragon Singularity. This card is insane. It's a definite 1-of in this deck, and this card is basically the new boss monster of this deck. It's absolutely crazy. It takes 3+ effect monsters. It's a Link 6 monster, and it has the ability to quick effect target cards your opponent controls or in their graveyard up to the number of different types Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, and XZ that you control and in your graveyard, and return them to the hand. Also, this card gains 500 attack for each card returned by this effect. And if a monster this card points to is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can target a Cyberse monster in your graveyard and special summon it back to your side of the field, which is a really good effect. This card is insanely good in the deck as a 1-of, and we actually play a bunch of those different types of monsters, making this card get the maximum value out of this card's effect. We then play a single copy of Dark Fluid. Dark Fluid is just really good to be able to put on your side of the field. It's absolutely crazy for its link arrows, and it's just a really good card overall that can get absolutely massive. We then play a single copy of the original Firewall Dragon. We did bring out the Ghost Rare for this profile. This card is really good as a 1-of in this Cyberse deck, and it's just super good to be able to play in Code Talker Firewall. We then play a single copy of Access Code Talker. Access Code is just really good just about in any deck, especially this one, because this card can pop multiple cards on the field and come out absolutely massive. We then play a single copy of Protect Code Talker. This card is very interesting to protect your high link monsters, which is really cool because it has the ability that your opponent cannot target link 4 or higher monsters that you control with card effects. Also, they cannot be destroyed by battle, giving you a lot of protection for your cards, which is definitely why we play this card as a 1-of in the build. And if you control a Firewall link monster, then quick effect, you can banish this link banish link monsters from your graveyard whose combined link rating equals exactly 3 to special summon this card from your graveyard but banish when it leaves the field, so it can even bring itself back from the graveyard. We then play a single copy of X-Code Talker. X-Code Talker is just a really good 1-of. It can lock down a zone, which is really nice, and it's a really cool card in this deck as they wanted to be able to use as a Wind Code Talker card to work with our copy of Signet Codex. We then play a single copy of Transcode Talker. Transcode Talker is great as a 1-of in this build because this card is basically a walking monster reborn, so it's really good to be able to play in this deck as a 1-of. We then play a single copy of Code Talker. Code Talker is a great starter to be able to make in the deck because of its arrows, and it's one of the first link monsters you usually make in the deck. We then play a single copy of Code Talker Inverted. I really like this card as a 1-of in this particular build. Because if this card is link summon, you can special summon a Cyberse monster from your hand to a zone this card points to, which just extend your play so you can keep link summoning. We then play a single copy of Splash Mage. This card is also a walking monster reborn just to extend your plays. It's a really good 1-of in the deck. We then play a single copy of Cyberse Witch. Cyberse Witch works with our ritual cards, which is absolutely amazing, which is why we play this card as a 1-of in the build. Is if a monster is special summoned to a zone this card points to, then you can manage a spell from your graveyard to add a Cyberse Ritual monster and a Signet Ritual from your deck to your hand. And then during your main phase, if this effect was activated this turn, then you can target a level 4 lower Cyberse monster in your graveyard and special summon it, basically giving you a free ritual summon, which is amazing. We then play a single copy of G-Golem Crystal Heart. This card is amazing to be able to bring back an Earth Link monster from your graveyard, which is always going to be your copy of your Transcode Talker to be able to make a really powerful monster on your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Balinx. Balinx is great to be able to search out Salamangreat Great Sanctuary, which is why we play this card as a 1-of in the build. We then play a single copy of Alum Bersham. Alum Bersham is insanely good for all of its really good effects, but we can add a Mathmech card from our deck to our hand off this card's effect, which makes this card really good, and also it's the XZ monster we play in the deck, so we can have an XZ in this build that is a Cyverse card. We then play a single copy of Cyverse Desaveworm. Desaveworm is really good in this deck because this card is a spell trap negate. It's very easy to get into the graveyard, which is why we play this card as a 1-of in the build. It's really good to be able to put on your side of the field, but it's great for its graveyard effect, which is why we're playing this card in this deck. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have not played the new Firewall support, you guys should definitely give this deck a try, especially with the Code Talker cards in this deck. It's just absolutely amazing to be able to play this deck, and it's super fun to be able to make some absolutely incredible fields. So anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of our notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.